A small, cozy cafe located at the intersection of two busy streets was one of those places where locals stopped for their morning coffee or lunch break. The atmosphere was homely, but there was plenty of work to be done. The waiters worked nonstop, serving food, clearing tables, and smiling at customers even when they were tired. Among them stood out a young girl who had been working here for several years. Her job was not only a means of earning money, but also a part of her life. She knew most of the customers by name, their favorite drinks and habits. That day, the cafe was as crowded as ever. Orders came in one after another, and the girl worked with unchanged friendliness. She was extremely attentive to detail, always trying to do more than what was required of her. During a break between tables, she noticed a homeless man sitting at the entrance. His clothes were old and worn, and his eyes betrayed hunger and fatigue. He did not ask for food or money, just sat there in silence, trying to avoid prying eyes. This sight touched the girl. She realized how difficult it must be for him, especially in such a crowded place where most people prefer to pass by. Without hesitation, she decided to help. Entering the kitchen, she prepared a small lunch, a sandwich, a cup of soup, and a glass of water. She knew it wouldn't change his life, but she hoped it would make his day at least a little easier. Careful not to attract too much attention, she left the cafe and approached the man. She put the food in front of him and gestured that he could eat it here. Her action was quiet, almost imperceptible, but sincere. The man looked up at her, and his face, though tired, reflected gratitude. He began to eat, and the girl went back to her work, not wanting to draw attention to what she had done. However, this gesture did not go unnoticed. The owner of the cafe, who always monitored the work of his employees, saw the girl take out food without permission. His gaze became stern and his thoughts cold. He believed that this was a waste of resources and that the waitress should have asked for permission before acting. In his eyes, business came first, not compassion. After this incident, the girl returned to her duties, not realizing that her good deed would soon cause problems. The owner decided that she needed to be punished so that other employees would not follow suit. He planned to take away her bonus to show that such actions were unacceptable in his establishment. Among the visitors that day, there was a man who sat in the corner, hardly attracting attention. It was Keanu Reeves. He had come into the cafe to have a coffee and relax for a while. But instead of focusing on his thoughts, he was watching what was happening. It was this young waitress who caught his attention. Her kindness, the imperceptibility of her gestures, and her sincerity made a great impression on him. Keanu saw how she calmly continued to work even when the owner approached her with a stern expression. He heard their conversation and realized that the girl's good deed was not only unappreciated, but also criticized. When she ran out of the cafe in tears, leaving the tray on the table, he decided to follow her. This moment was the beginning of a story that would change the girl's life forever. Her kindness, done without expectation of reward, became the ray that caught the attention of a man who could change her fate. After the young waitress ran out of the cafe in tears, the atmosphere in the cafe changed. Several employees who had seen the incident exchanged anxious glances with each other, but no one dared to express their dissatisfaction with the owner's actions. Their jobs depended on him, and any word against him could result in the loss of their income. Meanwhile, the cafe owner returned to his office, dissatisfied with the situation. In his eyes, he had done the right thing by reminding his employees that every resource counts, and no initiative can be taken without authorization. When the owner sat down at his desk, he did not even realize that there was someone among the customers of the establishment who would not ignore this situation. Keanu Reeves, who was sitting in his corner, was carefully watching everything that was happening. He saw the cafe owner talking to the girl with irritation, saw her reaction, the tears she tried to hold back before running outside. For him, it was not just a random conflict at work. He realized that there was something more behind it. Keanu calmly finished his coffee, wondering what he should do. He was in no hurry because he knew that it takes more than an emotional impulse to make the right decision. When he left the cafe, it was already evening outside. The air was cool, and the noise of the city seemed somewhat muffled. He noticed the waitress nearby, sitting on a bench in a small park next to the cafe. She was hiding her face in her hands, trying to cope with her emotions. Keanu approached her slowly, trying not to scare her. He stopped a short distance away to give her time to notice his presence. The girl looked up, her eyes red with tears. At that moment, they began a quiet conversation, not with words, but with their eyes. She realized that she was looking at a client who had probably seen everything that had happened. Her first reaction was to apologize, but he gestured that this was not necessary. Keanu, with his usual delicacy, sat down on the bench next to her, keeping a small distance between them. He didn't ask any questions, but his presence was already a sign of support. The waitress gradually began to calm down. Her breathing steadied, and she was able to collect her thoughts. Keanu realized that she needed to talk, but he was in no hurry to intervene. Gradually, the girl began to tell her story. She spoke quietly, as if she was afraid that even now her words might be judged. Her voice trembled, but she continued. She told how she ended up in this cafe. Her job became a way for her to support herself and her family. Her mother was seriously ill, and she spent all the money she earned on her treatment. Her dream of going to university seemed unrealistic now. She felt that her life had come to a standstill, but despite this, she tried to remain kind to others. The homeless man she brought food to reminded her how important compassion and support are. Keanu listened to her carefully, not interrupting her. Every detail of her story revealed to him a picture of her life, of struggle, loss, and hope. He felt that this young girl deserved more than just survival. She was one of those people whose kindness had the potential to change the world around her. But she lacked opportunities. They sat in silence after her story. Keanu realized that this was not the time for promises or decisions. He was just there, letting her feel that she was not alone. The girl thanked him for listening to her and went back to the cafe to pick up her things. Keanu remained sitting on the bench, staring at the night sky. He knew he had to do something, but he knew he had to be careful. The next day, Keanu went to the cafe, but this time not as a customer. He wanted to learn more about the girl and her situation. He spoke to several employees without revealing his intentions. He managed to find out about her job, her schedule, and even that she often took extra shifts to earn more. Every little detail confirmed what he had already realized. This girl was exceptional. Keanu also noticed the owner of the cafe. His attitude towards his employees and customers was very different. He was a man for whom profit came before humanity. Keanu knew that direct intervention could only complicate the situation for the girl, so he decided to act discreetly. He began to develop a plan. He wanted to not only help the girl out of her difficult situation, but also give her a chance to realize her dreams. His first step was to contact one of the universities she had mentioned in her story. He contacted the administration and found out that she had applied there a few years ago, but was unable to get in due to financial difficulties. This was important information that helped Keanu understand how to proceed. Keanu decided that he would pay for her education, but he would do so anonymously. He wanted the girl to feel that her dream had come true thanks to her own efforts and kindness. He contacted the university and arranged for a scholarship that would cover all of her tuition costs, including housing and study materials. He also decided to set up a small fund for her to help her with her current expenses. Preparations for this charity event took several weeks. Keanu carefully thought through every detail to make everything look as natural as possible. His main goal was not just to help, but to do it in a way that would make the girl feel supported without pressure or a sense of obligation. After several weeks of thought and preparation, Keanu Reeves finally decided to implement his plan to help the young waitress. His goal was not only to provide her with financial support for her studies, but also to give her the feeling that her dreams were realized through her own efforts and kindness. Keanu understood that the true value of help lies in giving a person the opportunity to act independently. The first step was to organize funding for her education. Keanu contacted the prestigious university that the girl had mentioned in her story. He contacted the administration of the institution through his proxies and found out that the girl had indeed applied for admission, but was unable to get in due to financial difficulties. The university had kept her documents, which was an important point in the process of processing her admission. Keanu arranged to set up an anonymous scholarship that covered all expenses: tuition, accommodation, textbooks, and other necessary items. The university gladly agreed to cooperate, realizing that such an initiative would set an example for other philanthropists. The name of the scholarship remained confidential, and none of the university employees knew who had provided the funds. The next step was to create a fund to cover the girl's current expenses during her studies. Keanu realized that even with her tuition fully paid for, she might face financial difficulties due to daily expenses. He set up a small emergency fund that would allow her to not have to worry about things like food, transportation, or unexpected expenses. This fund was also set up through intermediaries to keep it anonymous. An important point in this process was how the girl would find out about her scholarship. Keanu wanted it to look as natural and unexpected as possible. He asked the university administration to send her an official notification stating that she had been awarded the scholarship because of her academic achievements and potential. The message was to emphasize that it was the result of her own perseverance and hard work. At the same time, Keanu continued to watch the girl from a distance. He often stopped by the cafe to see how she was working and to make sure she still had the same genuine smile he had seen on the first day. Her demeanor had not changed. She was still attentive to customers, helpful to her colleagues, and tried to maintain a good atmosphere even when her own circumstances remained difficult. Keanu also noticed that after the incident with the cafe owner, she became more cautious. She tried to avoid conflicts and not draw too much attention to her actions. This did not mean that she had stopped being kind or responsive, but her energy had become a bit more subdued. He could see how hard it was for her to stay optimistic when the odds were against her, and that made him even more determined to help her. One of the key parts of Keanu's plan included not only financial support, but also inspiration. He wanted to show the girl that her kindness matters and that her actions do not go unnoticed. To do this, he decided to create a small symbolic reward that would remind her of her strength and dedication. He ordered a jeweler to make a small heart-shaped pendant with the inscription, "Kindness changes the world." He planned to give the pendant to her through an intermediary, along with a letter of support in which an anonymous benefactor expressed his gratitude for her good deeds. A few weeks after starting to implement his plan, Keanu received a message from the university that all formalities had been completed. She received an official notification of her scholarship and was invited to an introductory meeting with the dean. It came as a real surprise to her. She could not believe that her dream of studying at a prestigious university was finally becoming a reality. At first, she even thought it was some kind of mistake, but the letter from the university was too specific to doubt its veracity. When she came to meet with the dean, she learned more about the scholarship. She was told that the scholarship was created by an anonymous benefactor who saw her great potential. This explanation touched her to the core. She couldn't hold back her tears as she listened to the dean's words about how her perseverance and kindness had been the basis for this chance. Meanwhile, Keanu, upon learning that his plan had worked, felt deeply satisfied. For him, it was not just another charity event. It was something more, an opportunity to change the life of a man who deserved it for his honesty and humanity. He realized that his role in this story was over, and now everything depended on the girl. The girl, given this chance, began preparing to enter the university. She told her mother, who was extremely proud of her. Although her mother didn't know the details, she was sure that her daughter's kindness had attracted the attention of someone special. This was the beginning of a new phase in their lives. Her first days at university were a real challenge, but also the happiest time of her life. Entering a prestigious institution, she felt like a part of something bigger. The campus was impressive in its size, and the atmosphere was filled with the energy of knowledge and ambition. All of this seemed almost unreal to her, because only a few weeks ago, she could not even dream of it. The scholarship she received allowed her to focus on her studies without having to think about financial difficulties. She no longer needed to take extra shifts at a cafe, and this gave her the opportunity to fully pursue her dreams. She chose the Faculty of Law because she has always wanted to help people. Her experience as a waitress, her communication with different people, and her desire for justice have shaped her desire to change the world for the better. From the very first days of her studies, she attracted the attention of her classmates with her determination and kindness. She was not afraid to take on additional tasks, explore complex topics, and share her vision. Her professors quickly recognized her potential and supported her by encouraging her to participate in additional programs and seminars. Despite her intensive studies, she did not forget her roots. She kept in touch with the cafe where she worked and always found time to stop by and chat with her coworkers. Her story became an inspiration to many of them. They saw how her kindness and hard work brought about changes that seemed impossible. One day, she received a package. Inside was a small box with a heart-shaped pendant with the words, "Kindness changes the world." Along with the pendant was a letter in which an anonymous benefactor thanked her for her sincerity and encouraged her to continue following her dreams. Once again, the girl could not hold back her tears as it reminded her that her kindness was indeed noticed. This gift became a symbol for her that she wore every day. The pendant reminded her of the day in the cafe when she decided to help the homeless man and of the person who gave her a chance to change her life. She decided that she would not stop until she could repay the world for the kindness she had received. Over the next years, the girl made incredible progress in her studies. She won student competitions, participated in volunteer projects, and even launched an initiative to raise funds for students in need of financial assistance. Her initiative quickly gained popularity, and she became the face of a movement to support talented young people from low-income families. Keanu, who continued to follow her progress from afar, couldn't help but be proud of how his decision had impacted her life. He saw her photos in the news, read articles about her achievements, and realized that his help was not in vain. But he still kept to himself, avoiding any attention to his identity. After graduating from university, she started working at a law firm that specialized in social issues. She helped people in difficult life circumstances and always emphasized that her main goal was not only to win in court, but also to restore justice and hope. Her clients were often surprised by her sincerity and desire to understand their problems. Once, during a TV interview, she was asked about her motivation. She told them about the day in the cafe when she decided to help a homeless man and about the mysterious benefactor who changed her life. She thanked this person without even knowing who he was and said that this example inspired her to be just as kind to others. The story spread across the media, and many people began to recall their good deeds, which may have had a greater impact than they thought. And although Keanu Reeves' name never came up in the story, his role remained in the girl's heart as an invisible support that gave her the strength to move forward. Years passed, but the girl did not forget her path. She continued to help others, set up a charity foundation to support young people who wanted to get an education, and expanded her activities to the international level. Her life proved that even a single drop of kindness can cause waves of change in the world. Years passed, but the memories of the kindness she received always stayed with her. She continued to develop her career, working on complex cases, helping people in difficult circumstances. Her reputation as a lawyer with high moral standards and dedication grew, and she was approached not only by clients but also by charitable organizations in need of legal assistance. One day, an elderly woman came to her office. She looked tired, but her eyes shone with hope. The woman explained that she wanted to start a small program to support young people going through difficult life circumstances. Her idea was to create educational programs that would help young people realize their potential. This conversation reminded her of her own journey, and she gladly agreed to help. While working on this case, she began to actively participate in events dedicated to supporting young people. At one such event, organized by a large charitable organization, she was invited as an honorary speaker. It was an opportunity for her not only to share her story, but also to inspire others. On the stage, she spoke about her journey, from working in a cafe to the moment when she was able to enter university thanks to an unknown benefactor. Her words touched the hearts of many in the audience. She emphasized that even the smallest act of kindness can change a person's life, and urged everyone to do good without expecting anything in return. Keanu Reeves was among the audience. He came to the event by chance, but after hearing her story, he realized that this was the same girl he had helped many years ago. He stayed in the shadows, not wanting to draw attention to himself, but his heart was filled with pride at how far she had come. After her speech, numerous guests came up to her to thank her for her inspiring words. She was happy to talk to everyone, answering questions and sharing details of her journey. But among all the faces in the crowd, there was one that caught her attention. It was Keanu, who stood off to the side, watching everything with a slight smile. When their eyes met, she felt a strange sensation, as if she knew this man. He approached her calmly and without any pathos. They started talking, and he praised her for her speech, saying that her story was truly inspiring. At first, she had no idea who he was, but later something in his manner and words made her suspicious. They talked for a long time, and Keanu reiterated that he did not want publicity or recognition. He was just glad that her life had changed for the better and that her kindness had brought about such a change. Her eyes filled with tears of gratitude, but she did not try to break his privacy. She knew that this moment was more than she could have asked for. After that meeting, she became even more determined to help others. Her story continued to inspire people around the world. And Keanu, while maintaining his anonymity, watched her success from afar, knowing that his small gesture of kindness was the beginning of a great journey for someone who really deserved it. Years have passed since Keanu Reeves first noticed a young waitress in a cafe. Her journey from a simple gesture of kindness to becoming a successful lawyer, helping to change the lives of others, is a true testament to the power of humanity. Her story has spread far beyond the city, inspiring people in different parts of the world. The girl who once worked in a small cafe now headed her own charity foundation. The organization specialized in supporting young people from low-income families by offering them scholarships, mentoring programs, and psychological assistance. Her work became an example for many who wanted to help but didn't know where to start. She always repeated that even the smallest act of kindness can change someone's life. One day, during an international conference on social initiatives, she